Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be making our own bouncy balls. So actually I'm going to show you two different ways on how to do this. One of them involves borax and the other involves cornstarch. The reason I'm doing the two different videos is because actually in Scotland we can't get borax, well the real thing, like you can get in America. So I'm going to use cornstarch as an alternative. But don't worry, I'll still show you step by step how to do it with your borax. So we'll just jump straight into it. Okay, so we'll start off with the borax version first. So first off, I got my warm water and I measured out half a cup into a bowl. So turned out half a cup was about 120 millilitres. As we don't really use the cup measurements in the UK, we use millilitres. So I just typed it into Google. Turns out to be 120 millilitres. So I got my measuring spoons and measured out 12 spoons of 10 millilitres into a bowl. You guys can measure out however you want, whatever you find easiest. So after that, I'm going to grab my borax, as you'll see in a minute. So I had to order this off Amazon, and it's actually borax substitute, which doesn't work the same as borax does the proper borax, but you guys will have the proper borax, so don't worry about that. So I measured out 1 tablespoon of the borax powder and I placed it into the bowl with the water. And you've got to make sure that you do stir this and that it is all dissolved before you move on to the next step. So just place it in the water, grab a spoon, and it does take quite a lot of stirring just to get that all dissolved and mixed in. So yeah, you're just giving that a nice mix in. Before you move on to the next step, if you do have sensitive skin, make sure that this is definitely all dissolved, because I do know that borax can actually irritate people's hands if they have sensitive skin. So do be quite careful with that. As you can see, if you stop mixing, you can see the water turns clearer. So that's what you're aiming for, is for the water to turn fully clear. But you will be able to see a few crystals or a few bits of the clumps of the borax powder. It does lie on the bottom, so make sure that you just keep stirring that until it does fully dissolve. It does take quite a while, I have to admit. My hand was getting a bit sore from all of this stirring. So at this point I kind of just gave up. I think with my version of borax substitute that it wasn't going to fully dissolve, so I kind of just accepted that fact. But it wasn't such a big problem for me because I don't have sensitive skin either. So I just moved straight on to the step 3. So what you want to do is you want to grab your clear glue or your glitter glue, and you want to measure out 1 to 2 tablespoons of it into your measuring spoons or however you're measuring it. Or to be fair, you don't even have to go with measurements, you can just use your eyes. But yeah, it's just preference, clear glue or glitter glue. Glitter glue will make your bouncy ball turn out nice and glittery, whereas if you prefer clear glue to make your bouncy ball turn out nice and clear. But you're just measuring that out. I was running out of glitter glue actually, because I've tried so many different ways of trying to make these bouncy balls. But I just popped that straight in and it stuck to my measuring spoon, so I had to grab another spoon and then spoon that out there. So do be quite careful with this, don't get glue everywhere like I did, but you guys will be so much better at this than I was. But yeah, once that's all in and all out of the measuring spoons, what you want to do is you want to move on to your step 4, which is you're just going to stir the glue about the borax solution. You should see it starts to become less sticky, less glue-like, and more like a rubber. So what we're doing here is we're just creating that texture that we want for our bouncy ball. So we do want it to kind of harden. The borax solution does react with the glue and it turns it more elasticated. But I'll explain more of that at the end of the video. I'll explain how bouncy balls work if any of you are interested for that. But you're just stirring about, make sure that the borax solution is touching as much surface area of the glue as possible. So if you want, you can stretch it out with the spoon. But next, what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to just go straight in with your hands. So you're kind of squishing and squeezing it in the borax solution. You should feel it doesn't stick to your hands, so it's not glue-like anymore. But make sure that you're just turning that, keeping it in the borax solution. And once you can feel it's at the right consistency, you're going to take it out off the borax solution and into your hands. So as I said, just squishing and squeezing using your hands, but as my borax solution isn't the correct solution like you guys will have, it didn't work, but I'm kind of demonstrating what you guys should have now. You just be squishing and squeezing and it should be hardening slightly. So yeah, that's the end of the borax bouncy ball. So you guys should have a nice smooth ball using your palms to shape it. So now we're going to move on to our method 2, which is our corn flour or cornstarch method. So first of all, you want to start off by measuring out 2 tablespoons of corn flour into a bowl. You can also make this thing called oobleck with corn flour and water, which is when you just mix water with corn flour and it becomes this kind of paste that you can pick up and you can squish into different shapes, but when you let it sit, it just runs back through your hand like liquid. But we're kind of using that recipe, but we're going to add in a different element to make it into a bouncy ball. So now what you're going to do is you're going to measure out 1/8 of a cup of just cold water for this, not warm water, and you're going to pour it on top of the corn flour. I think 1/8 of a cup is about 30 milliliters, so I measured out 3 tablespoons of 10 milliliters. But then you're going to just mix it all up. As you can see, it is becoming that oobleck kind of texture, but you're just going to try and mix it up as much as you can. You can see here that it's actually quite hard to mix because it's hard and it's liquid at the same time. But you're going to mix them together until they're fully combined. This is a little bit runnier than oobleck is, so if you're wanting to make oobleck, make sure that you add in more corn flour than you do water. Like it should be like a 3-to-1 ratio, so it'll be like 3 tablespoons of corn flour to 1 tablespoon of water, but that's just if you're interested in making it in the future. But this is the corn flour method to making the bouncy balls, so it needs to be a bit runnier. So once that's all combined, you're just going to take it and you're going to pop it into the microwave for 30 seconds. And you're going to leave it to cool for about 2 minutes until it's fully cooled. So once it's fully cooled, you're going to take it out of the bowl and you're going to squish it in your hands. It does have a really weird texture, this one, and it does smell when you put it in the microwave. And when you do put it into your microwave, make sure it's in a heat-proof bowl not in anything plastic or metal. So again, I was just adding a little bit of water just to smooth out them cracks. But again, you're just using your hands, your palms, just to squish it and squeeze it into a nice ball shape. This is what your guys' one should look like when you're doing it with the borax, except I think it should be a little bit softer. So at this point you should be getting a nice smooth texture on your ball. Using water again and using your thumb just to smooth out any cracks that there is. For bouncy balls you will need to keep them in a Ziploc bag just to keep them from drying out. However, if they do dry out, just take a bit of water and apply that to any cracks that there is in the ball, and that should be fine. But once the corn flour ball has set, you need to leave it for about 10 hours for it to get the full effect of the bounciness. So as you can see, compared a corn flour one to a normal bouncy ball, it isn't as good, but it still does have some bounce in it. So now on to the fun part. So now that your ball has set and it's ready to go, you can play tons of different fun games with it. So you can just take it outside, bounce it, see how high you can bounce it. Or you can do what I was doing. I put a little Lego minifigure on and see if I can knock him over with it. Or have little boxes or little cups that you can see if you can bounce into it. It did take an embarrassing amount of time and tries to get this ball into this box, and it was very close to me, but I'm sure you guys will be so much better at this than I was. But yeah, just using your imagination again, seeing how many fun games you can come up with. Okay, so now I'll just talk a little bit about how bouncy balls work. So this is quite confusing, it is quite scientific. So if you don't understand it, that's no problem. You can maybe try Google it, learn a little bit more for yourself. It is something you do have to research to get a grasp of. That's exactly what I had to do. I didn't know any of this. So I'll just explain a little bit about how they work. So when we added the glue into the borax water, we could see how it became a little bit firm, a little bit harder and bouncy. This is because the borax water, it reacted with the glue, and this caused the polymers in the glue to stick together, and this formed an elastomer. So in a bit simpler terms, it's like when you're cooking spaghetti, and when you're draining your spaghetti and you let it sit, if you leave it for too long, all of the spaghetti strands, they stick together. So that's kind of what polymers are and how they react with the borax water. So it kind of sticks together. And you can see it becomes, a little bit flexible. The spaghetti goes back to the flexible shape. So elasticity, it causes the ball to return to its round shape. So when you bounce a ball and it hits the floor, it pushes back up into the air. As you can see, that's what a bouncy ball is. So the elasticity allows the ball to be bounced back into the air. And a ball can bounce because of the cross-linked polymers. So as I was saying before with the spaghetti strands, because of them nice and tight, flexible and bouncy cross-linked polymers, they're flexible. So when they hit the floor, that allows it to squish and become flat and deform. And then the elasticity in the ball allows it to spring back up. So that's how they work. I hope you guys understood that. If not, no worries. You can maybe go and research a little bit about it yourself. But that's the end of the video, and I hope you guys had a great time and had some fun making this. It was quite tricky with the explanation, but the main thing is that you had fun, and I hope you're all doing well during this time and you're looking for the silver lining on the clouds, but I'd love to see you all out going for walks, doing some experiments with the bouncy balls and seeing how they work yourselves. So yeah, I hope you guys had fun in this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next.